Welcome to our webinar. Welcome to a webinar about outsourcing estate planning signings. We've got some best practices for estate planning attorneys who want to stay competitive in the 2025 convenience first economy. My name is Eli Ngote, CEO at The Best Notary. We've been helping attorneys outsource their estate plan signings going back to 2020 when the pandemic hit. We've built a really great solution that is available nationwide. We take care of all of the admin tasks necessary at the beginning of the estate planning signing, the proofing, printing, prepping. We take care of the notarization, sourcing witnesses. We record deeds with the counties, assemble binders, and coordinate delivery of that binder back to the client. We would love to share what we've learned about this whole process based on hundreds of clients we have worked with all across the country. And Stephanie, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi there, I'm Stephanie Rosso, the COO of The Best Notary, and I'm excited to share with you some of the learnings that we've had over the years.
Thank you, Stephanie. So we'll just jump right in.
So one of the things that we have learned over time is that outsourcing takes some prep work and that you really need to think through whether or not you're ready for outsourcing, and there are things that need to be considered, including the financial aspects, the quality, the security, the compliance, and the risk management. So one has to dig deep and think, are you ready to outsource? Is it a cultural fit between you and the idea of outsourcing? Does your team agree to the idea of outsourcing, or are they hesitant on this? Sometimes if teams aren't bought in, there's a little bit of sabotage or getting in the way or slowing down. We've also learned that it's really important to have strong systems in place, processes and systems that are documented, and that there are very clear roles and communications. And, outsourcing helps us in so many ways, but in order to be ready for that, we need to have the bandwidth and capacity to prepare for that, to communicate for that, to work out any bugs or kinks in between. And so we have to have some time and bandwidth for that. And we need to really think about these things, that are we ready before we can take the next steps?
Thank you, Stephanie, for that. So a lot of attorneys hesitate when it comes to outsourcing because they're really thinking of outsourcing as a cost center. They're seeing it as something you have to pay to be able to, you pay before you see the benefits. But the reality is, outsourcing unlocks a ton of hours that their attorney is spending that are really things that their attorney should not be doing. Any kind of admin work that their attorney is doing, or even a highly skilled paralegal, is essentially very, very expensive to the firm because it could easily be outsourced for a cost that is much lower. So it's important to think about your own fee schedule and whether you are charging appropriately to be sure to be able to still make a profit after you compensate yourself and your team. So the ROI comes in typically within the first, I want to say, month or two of actually actively delegating these tasks, because the freed up time is what allows you to build better systems for your firm. And the real value of any business is actually the systems. It's not the people who work there and what they know. It's their ability to take what they know in their minds and then put that into well-documented processes, which can be easily learned and also maintained by the new members who will join the team. So the real costs of outsourcing really are shown when you finally put this into practice and bring in an actual company that can take over the things that you're doing. You get to see just how much time was being wasted on things that the firm could have outsourced a long time ago. So it does take some time to make this all happen, to model this all out. And we are here to help you think about that process. What should you outsource? A lot of folks think that they should outsource what, they don't enjoy doing, or what is maybe the most mundane aspect of the job that they're doing. But the reality is, it makes sense to outsource what you're really, really good at, because you're going to be much better at supervising that task. So if you don't have a task really well documented and running smoothly, outsourcing just increases the risk that that particular task is not going to be done to the levels of detail or outcome that you would like. So some things, guiding clients, advising clients, those things should always stay in house because only the lawyer can do those tasks. But the attorney who is looking at growing their firm, they can start by, delegating what specifically does not need it to be them doing it, right? Or anybody in their office, right? Printing documents, very easy to outsource. Not something that their attorney and the paralegals or anybody in the office has to do, right? Tagging of documents, assembling a binder together, right? These are things that, right, they are not, they don't require a license. But when it comes to the guidance to the client, right, those things are the only things that really the attorney and the paralegals and the team members of the company have to keep in house. Drafting, we've heard, is something which is also outsourceable, right? This is the actual production of the legal documents. As long as the vendors are reputable, we can think of two right now: back office drafting and drafting angels. These are two, or drafting gurus, I think. These are two companies who've established themselves in the community as trustworthy companies. And that takes a long time to build that. So we are really, wanting to advise firms to really also focus on, if you love the task, right, you want to have folks come into your office, then keep that aspect of your firm. I don't want you to change how you do business. I want you to think about what is it that doesn't bring you joy as well, because that makes sense to offload that printing, offload that binder assembly, that deed recording. Those are things that don't necessarily add value to the client experience if they're done by you. But you being there for that initial counseling meeting and for any questions the client might have, that's where you shine.
So, going a little bit deeper into some of what Eli was talking about, there are different areas and opportunities for outsourcing, right? You can have virtual assistants, virtual legal assistants. You can have of counsel arrangements. You can outsource paralegals, um, and the document prepping and printing. There's lots of technology solutions that help provide extra support. You can have outsourcing of marketing and drafting and signings. So there's lots of opportunities to think about, as Eli was talking about, what is your joy bubble? What is the area that you work best in? And then where are the opportunities in these different categories? So one of the things that's going to be really important is choosing a vendor. So let's say you've decided that you are going to outsource this particular area. It is important to vet the vendor and understand, do they have expertise? What is their track record? How long have they been in business? Are they just getting into this and they think they know what they're doing, or do they have established clients and a reputation? Do others work with them and recommend them? I had someone recently say to me, "Why should I trust you?" And and I said, maybe you shouldn't if you are just meeting me, right? Unless you know more about me. But they also know one of our clients, and I said, ask that client. And they said, oh, you work with that person? I know she's great. And so, do others work with that vendor? Do they recommend them? Do they understand the unique needs of estate planning attorneys? Not all notaries, for example, understand estate planning. And so one can think, oh, I can just hire a mobile notary, but they may not understand the unique needs of the documents and what needs to happen.
All right, choosing a vendor. It is important that you make sure that the vendor you're working with is sophisticated enough to understand very important things like attorney-client privilege. We've had a couple situations that were dicey because the notary that we're working with, came out of the escrow industry and just didn't understand that you just can't talk about or have anyone else other than the client, or anyone else than the client, you know, access the documents that are going to be signed by that notary. So it's very important to find out whether that person is working as an individual or working with multiple people working under them, whether they have NDAs internal to that company, looking at their data storage, transmission and deletion practices. Look asking for where are, what cloud servers are they using? Are they AWS or being kept on-prem? Do they have, do those data warehouses have SOC2 compliance, which is the highest, the kind of the gold standard when it comes to best practices for security of digital information, compliance with state and federal regulations. So, asking for those things up front is very helpful. We have put ours on our website to make it easy for our clients to see what we do in terms of how long do we keep client data for? Could they delete it upon request? So all of these are things that should be part of every initial conversation with that vendor. When it comes to working with different vendors, the ability to connect directly to their platforms is pivotal in a time when every second counts. Not having to add an additional platform to your repertoire makes a lot of sense to leverage tools like Zapier. We would Zapier make or even a custom API. We like working with clients who use Clio because we can easily work within their ecosystem, whether it's with a co-counsel account or just having an account created by that client for us. We can also build out for us custom integrations that make it easy to transfer files in and out of our platform when it comes to the notary piece. But when it comes to working with other vendors in general, the more technical that vendor is and the ability to leverage some of these tools you see here and others. There's a company called N8N, which is a newcomer to the no code integration space. That just makes it that much easier to scale and grow with that company as your firm brings in more matters. Automation of emails and reminders means that you are not relying upon, you're remembering to check on something, but you're being nudged and pushed every step of the way. Getting like updates, status updates. These are things that are part of that either, integration ecosystem that vendor has, or they could be tools that are built into that vendor platform that you're considering.
So one of the big questions that we get is why should I outsource the signings? Well, first of all, it saves you 6 to 8 hours of non-billable time. And that's crucial, right? It saves you the paper cuts as well, the hassle. For clients, for the signers, it gives them more flexibility to have signings on night times or weekends, right? Without needing to come to the office to sign. And it's less hassle for them. They don't have to go through traffic or parking or the logistics of getting to the office. What should be a 45-minute kind of event can turn into a half a day ordeal and feels like a burden and a hassle and may delay getting the documents signed. Um, so for many people, focusing on billable hours and focusing on growing the firm and customer service, bringing in new clients, or getting to spend time with one's family, right? And having a work-life balance. So sometimes that saved time is a good time for a walk or something else. So it depends on what people's growth, what their goals are. And also, it helps streamline your workflow, right? That you get to draft the documents, finish them, and hand them off, and know that all of those last steps will be handled for you, and you don't have to manage them. So that really makes life much easier and much faster.
I just wanted to quickly add, Stephanie, before we get to the mobile notary stage, I just talked to an attorney today, the previous slide about why, a lot of attorneys, especially in New York, have found they believe that an attorney has to supervise the signing meeting, especially when it comes to a will. However, if you're talking to the attorney, it turns out that that is something that would be a defense in the very unlikely event that someone contests that will. If that attorney has to go to a stand, it helps if the attorney says that I was there and I went through, the process of making sure that everybody understood what they were signing, and that the signing was executed properly. The reality is, unless that 1% of situations happen, no one will ever know whether this will was signed in the presence of an attorney or not. And while we do want to be very, very conservative and very risk averse, I think it is a huge loss of that attorney not being able to make sure that they can serve more clients in more places without having them to be physically there. I think the attorneys understand this, but they're really thinking from a risk standpoint. But I think the risk is greater that they will not help more families out there, right? Where there will most likely not be a contest of a will. No, no, challenging because just because the attorney wasn't there, that will wasn't signed properly or validly. So I think it's important to dig deep into the statute to really see, does this truly add value for the attorney to be present? Just to ask the question, is this your will? So I think by talking to other attorneys who have started to outsource a signing meeting, you're going to see that in the case that someone wants to unfairly contest a will, it's not going to matter whether the attorney was in the room or not. People will find the tiniest thing possible to try to discredit their will. So we like to look at the big picture of what the law of averages says. And the law of averages says an attorney is not going to be in trouble just because they supervise the signing of a will while not being present in the room. So, bring that in for our attorneys or anybody who's watching this who's based in New York or any other state that really insist that their attorney needs to be present for the signing of a will.
And we have had some attorneys who are present via Zoom for the signing of the will, right? So they still outsource the printing and the prepping and the shipping and the scanning and the deed recording and all of the rest. But they are there to answer any last minute questions and to be present via Zoom. It takes them a whole lot less time. They're still saving a lot of non-billable time and streamlining their process. So that's an option as well. So I don't know about all of you, but finding a mobile notary can be a real challenge. You may have a friend or a colleague who's a notary. That's great. Local banks do notarization, but they've been a little more conservative about that lately, and don't have as many notaries. I think the banking industry has changed a lot, and you have to have an account there. It's become a little more complicated. Mailbox stores do have mobile notaries or have notaries. They are very on the time of day. Are they there? Are they sick? It's one person. There's certain hours. They also are not going to have an understanding of what goes into signing these documents properly. We have met many attorneys who ship the documents to the signers and say, go find a notary. And 20, 30, 40% of the time, there is some sort of error because they missed something. They signed in the wrong spot. And so that's one of the challenges is that the mailbox stores don't see these documents very often. You can look on Yelp and Google Maps, and there are notary directories. And again, in our experience, many of these notaries specialize in real estate documents, not estate planning documents. So there is a process, and there are notaries in different places. The challenge is finding a notary that understands estate planning documents.
All right. So when it comes to doing this yourself, a lot of, we've got a few attorneys who really want to meet the notary themselves, vet the notary themselves. And it's a significant, thing to take on because you have to make sure that if that notary that you've been working with, isn't available for some reason or moves physically to a different location, you're kind of back to square one in the process of vetting, making sure that person understands your documents, and then dealing with any issues that might come up, with that person, whether it's a child that gets sick or they have to do something that is urgent. I had a client actually just yesterday who had a signing schedule on a Sunday morning in Michigan, and the notary unfortunately canceled on the attorney. So the attorney is like, "Here I am, with my clients about to show up, and I have no notary or witnesses." So we essentially solve the problem of having to source notaries in different jurisdictions. There's 50 states and 50 sets of notary laws to navigate as well. And, every notary is at a different level of skill, of experience, of professionalism, of availability. Some people have full-time jobs. Some do this part-time. Some, are only able to drive within X radius of where they are. So if you are dealing with clients these days who might be in different locations, it can be a bit of a really heavy lift to interview, make sure that document those documents get signed properly, and that any mistakes are fixed promptly and quickly. So that is a thing we've seen, that checking for the flexibility level, right? The professionalism of these notaries by interviewing them on video is what we've done to be able to make sure that these are reputable folks. And we've got a huge bench of them across the country. It's been about 15 years of doing this. So it really helps to work with an established company who has relationships as opposed to doing it yourself.
If you are going to do it yourself, it can be a process of looking up, making phone calls, coming back, looking again, Googling, then searching, and then talking to someone and going on these kind of roundabout ways. And yet with us, basically, you put in the order and then you get updates. And if you need to reschedule, you do, and the signing happens, and you're alerted along the way of the process of what is happening. So part of the challenge is vetting a mobile notary, right? One of the questions that is, do they have experience with estate planning documents? Not one or two times, but many times. Are they familiar with the requirements for estate planning documents in your jurisdiction, right? Do they understand the nuances? One of the things that can be helpful is asking for referrals from other estate planning attorneys. And the challenge is that you may live in a state like California, which is really large. And so they may have a great notary in their area, but they don't have someone in the rural areas or in different parts of the state. I think it's really important to check for certifications and memberships in professional organizations. This gives you an idea about their dedication and their experience and their specialization. You want to make sure that they have insurance and that they're bonded. Um, and you also want to consider their availability and willingness to travel, right? Are they close by? Is it a really long? We do have certain places that are very rural, and notaries need to travel for an hour or two. Is that okay? And are they going to charge you a significant travel fee? Um, so recommendations are very helpful. So are reading reviews and testimonials from past clients. There's a lot to take care of, to take into account. What is their personality like, right? How flexible are they? How friendly are they? How do they handle when, the client has a question? Are they flexible and relatable? And these are things that are really important to give the best experience for your clients.
So we like to compare what a mobile notary does to what we do as a document concierge. And the difference is that a notary typically is someone who is tasked with verifying identity of the person signing documents, making sure the documents, the notary seal goes in the right place, that any notary blocks are completed properly, right? The venue, which is the state, the county, the date, the type of ID that was used, depending on the state. Some states require that. And then, of course, a notary can print documents, as needed. Sometimes they can scan documents. Sometimes they can use their phone to take, signature pages, which we don't think is a great practice because, right, that is very easy and an easy way to invite a challenge to what documents were signed by that person. It really erodes trust as to whether any pages were changed between the time that the legal document was signed and when the documents were scanned. So as a document concierge, right, we combine quite a few things that notaries, might not be able to do. We can record deeds with the county, We use a software called Simplifile. A very similar tool is CSC, has a deed recording platform. So that is I think, a major differentiation, that we can add that additional value of doing that. But not just we don't just print documents. We can do it on different kinds of paper. We've got a headquarters document production facility, California, where we've got literally 10 kinds of paper that we can use depending on what the attorney prefers. We also can do both remote and in-person notarizations in multiple jurisdictions. So you might find that if you're working with a notary, they can only help you in that one state that they're commissioned in. But we, by being an agency, we've got relationships with notaries across the entire U.S. We can deliver witnesses. Most notaries might not be able to bring a witness along, so we bring witnesses who typically are notaries, and already understand the importance of verifying identity, and being detail oriented when it comes to signing on that will, or signing on that living will or healthcare directive. So we also assemble binders, which is something that requires quite a bit of rigor, to be able to follow the attorney's detailed instructions when it comes to how they want their dividers placed, any additional supplemental documents, disengagement letters. So I think by combining all of these things, which typically, we say a document concierge is a customer service representative. They are a notary. They are a legal assistant. They are also supported by a paralegal, because we do proof documents as well, and also we do coordinate the delivery through FedEx. So by combining all of these roles, you have a one-stop shop to make sure that your clients are getting a white glove experience from the beginning of their engagement with you, where you hand them off to us for signatures, up until the binder is delivered. And by having done thousands of these across the country, we have the confidence to offer this to you as a way to help your business grow without you having to hire all those different individuals separately, and then maintain train them and then retain them to work with you, and then hire new team members as needed. So we're just saying you can do all of this yourself and maintain it yourself. Or if you're kind of early in your journey, you can just outsource it. Or even if you're a bigger firm, you can think about how you can use this as a strategic partner in growing the firm into new markets without having to do this yourself. And then, of course, once you have enough volume, of got to a particular level of success, you're able to bring all this back in house if you choose to.
So we offer in-person notarizations as a traditional mobile notary, but we also offer the opportunity for remote online notarization. Now, what is remote online notarization? It is the use of audio video technology like we're using today to allow notarization to happen through a video conference instead of in person. You can meet online from anywhere in the world. This has been really helpful for times where we've had parties in different locations who need to sign documents, people who are traveling abroad. It is fast and efficient signing process, and it has multiple layers of security. There are checks and verifications of the ID. There are knowledge-based authentication questions. There are videos that are kept for up to 10 years. It is really very secure and clear who is signing the documents. And it allows for people to do this from the convenience of their home without traffic or travel. So it is a great opportunity for people to save gas and paper and time. So this is an ever-evolving map. It's actually up to 45 states currently, plus the district of just plus Washington, D.C. Originally, Ron was allowed in Virginia starting in 2011. And so it has a very established laws in Virginia. And it's one of the reasons that we like to work with notaries in Virginia because they have so much experience and the laws are very, very clear. The challenge with Ron sometimes is that each state has its own regulations and rules. And so one has to pay attention to that. California has passed the RON legislation in 2023, but it will not go into effect until 2030. California has been very clear, though, that any notarization that's done lawfully in another state is legal in California. So I sometimes joke that our signers in California travel all the way to Texas on Zoom and meet their notaries in Texas and have their notarizations done in Texas. Um, and then they can travel back quickly to their hometown in California. So they get to do their notarization in Texas via Zoom and have it be lawful in California. There is a federal law in the works, and it hasn't gone into effect yet. The hope with that is that it would be clearer from state to state, because some states have very, very particular laws that make things challenging. The, the other exciting thing is that there's 10 states that allow electronic wills. And that's one of the challenges sometimes with the RON signings is how do we manage the wills? And so that's a different conversation. But there are 10 states that allow a completely electronic signing of documents.
So if you go back, I think Sophia has a question.
Yeah, I wanted to know if the signer can be out of the country.
Absolutely. The signer can be out of the country, and we've done many signings for people in different places around the world. If they are US based and living in other places, they likely are able to pass KBA and have public records and public data that they can pass those questions. There are some times that if they've lived out of the United States for a significant amount of time, that they do need a US-based credible witness to who can pass those questions and can vouch for their identity. So there are ways to do it, and we've done it successfully many, many times, and it's very helpful and convenient.
And what if I'm Florida or New York? Will they accept a run notary from another state?
I'll let you handle this one, Eli.
Yeah, so every single US state accepts notarizations done in other states. That has always happened going back before remote online notarization was even possible. So the answer to that question is you would have to look at the statute in your state which supports anybody in that state reviewing a document notarized in a different state and then deciding whether it's acceptable in the state, for example, Florida or New York. So regardless of what the laws are in that state, it's always been the case that if it's notarized lawfully by a notary in a different state, then the state that is receiving that document is compelled by law, by statute, to accept that notarization. The other pushback is, well, this is a digital document. Well, the reality is the e-Sign Act passed in the year 2000 by Bill Clinton made it so that as long as the parties agree, right, the trustor or the trustee or the testator and, whoever is on the other side of the document, that document, as long as it's signed electronically and the parties agree to it, it is equivalent to a document signed on paper. So those are the two laws, right? The statute in the state. In California, it's section 1189B of the Real Property Code. And in other states, it might be different. So we do have a link in the materials. We're going to put that a link in the materials to allow you to find the exact law which you can use to defend the acceptance of your document, even if it's notarized by a remote online notary in a different state. I think that Iowa is the only state that I know that has a caveat that wants both the signer and the notary to be in the same state at the time of notarization. Otherwise, every single state allows that the client could be anywhere as long as a notary is residing in the state in which they're commissioned and allowed to provide remote online notary services. So the answer there is that yes, but do look at your statutes to make sure that they are very clear about the acceptance of outside notarizations by a foreign state, a foreign notary in a different state. Thank you, Sophia. Great question. All right, let's continue. So, yeah, our solution has helped attorneys work remotely. Jeff Austin was able to work with us while he was in Patagonia. He's now back. We have clients who have, seen their practice grow 30%. One other attorney, Ellen Cookman in Palo Alto, she has, tripled her practice. That's 300% growth by going completely remote and outsourcing our signings, both in person and remote. So by freeing up the time of you doing all of these administrative tasks, so hiring and training for those roles, you can really have more flexibility in how you work and be able to grow faster because you don't have to build all these pieces yourself. So why should you outsource to TBN or to any other company, right? Because you want to find experts who can just be an extension of your team, right? Building a team and managing folks is one of the hardest things that I have ever done. And I think if you're a lawyer who's attempted to hire staff, whether it's part-time or full-time, the responsibility grows exponentially when you add more people, more personality types, more cultural pieces and components. It's very, very, very hard to keep everyone on the same page. And then to work with technology and navigate all of the different tools out there. It seems like every, day that I wake up, there's a new tool and a new use of AI. So being able to navigate all of those different options can be really, really time intensive. And I think also, if you want to serve more clients in more places, you want to give them more options. Do you want to sign at home, on a weekend? Do you want to sign, at your office? Giving them that choice, I think shows that you are a client centric and somebody who cares and empathizes with, the fact that they have young children. You yourself, as an attorney, might have a young child. I was talking to an attorney today, and her, young daughter was on the phone with her, and she couldn't even be on camera because I think she was taking care of a little one. So I think having our team to support you, other teams, it doesn't have to be our team. Having other teams to support you just means that you can serve more people in more places. And for us, we prioritize security and confidentiality and make sure that every person we work with is under NDA. We have an onboarding call with every notary we work with. We ourselves have advanced ways to make sure that we're not being phished in terms of having secret words that we share with each other when we are asking for sensitive information. So we are continuously staying up to speed with the latest and greatest in the world of technology, in the world of leadership and management training to make sure that our team is robust, well uh, attuned to each other and what everyone else needs, and that's how we're able to serve over 100 plus estate planning attorneys in over 15 states reliably, and we want to bring the same advantage to you and your team. And we really appreciate you listening to us and working with us.
So that concludes our formal presentation, and just want to thank you for the time and the consideration of thinking creatively about how one can outsource and can think outside the box of the office and the four walls of the office. So we look forward to talking with you more if you have any questions or comments or want to think about creatively about how we can help you let go of signings or other paper cut tasks.
And I think we should mention that anybody watching here who is a Wealth Council member, we do have a special offer just for you available at the Wealth Council Marketplace. You can click on the link in the show notes in the video notes here, and that will take you right to the offer. You get to get three signings. Usually, we ask for a minimum of five for a prepaid package, and with that package, you get an unlimited notarizations within that 1 hour with our notary in any location you're choosing. If a car can get there in the US, we can get there to meet your client. We'll bring two witnesses. If you need two witnesses in California, typically you need one additional witness. So the cost of the California offer is a little bit lower. So three signings, all the trimmings, one deed recording, one binder assembled, your binder or one of our generic binders, and all the scanning, all the printing, all the notarizations, and then delivery of the binder back to your client. Nice way to try us out with just three signings. These are good for 12 months. Take advantage of that offer to see how we can help you grow your firm without the hassle.